because now we are talking of agriculture intensification, not extensification. Meaning that within the same field, within the same area, how do you increase production? And this can be achieved through engineering approach. So engineering solutions are key. So I want to assure you, challenge you, the engineers, that you have a key role to play in ensuring food security. A lot of waste, as you mentioned, a lot of waste, and the processing and various aspects of it, the type of processing and all that. It's all engineering, agriculture engineering and all that play a key role. Food technology is a lot of engineering. So, from land preparation, cultivation, tillage, weed management, harvesting, processing, threshing, then processing the product after threshing into various aspects that we can now. We are all saying that the problem that we have, most of our crops are exported outside. And the advice is that we should process more, isn't it? And that is the role of engineers. Adding value, it's engineers. So engineers, we have a role to play. So it tells you there's no way you can leave engineers behind. That is a reason why, maybe now things have changed, but formerly about 60% of Ghanaian populace were farmers. I think the percentage might have maybe reduced to about 50 or so. 60% were farmers. And yet, we have to import food because we were not employing this key engineering principle. Therefore, engineers, let's come out. This is the time for us to speak out, contribute to the government policies, so that now various government, previous government, the current government is talking of food. In what role are we playing? We have to speak so that we contribute significantly to the government policy, influence it, because that is the only way. Anyway, as far as UNE is concerned, I know that we've been trying, and I'll say this in some ways. I mean, for UNE is offering a number of food security and sustainable agriculture value chain related courses, such as BSc Agriculture, BSc Food Technology, Agribusiness, Agriculture and Resource Economics, Agriculture Engineering. The newest that we have is Masters and MPhil in Agroecology, which I think we are starting this year. BSc Climate Change and Sustainable Development, MPhil Agriculture and Resource Economics. The Earth Observation Research Innovation Center, GhIE, of our university, has also developed an advanced Internet of Things, enabled Wi-Fi and weather alert system designed for Ghanaian farmers. This system allows users to receive real-time fire alert, report incidents, and access weather data via SMS to protect crops and reduce post-harvest losses, strengthen bushfire management. These are areas which is important now to the farmers, because even like cocoa farmers, if you look, those of you who have experience in cocoa farming, you see how they do things. Especially when it's the weather, around June or so. Drying of cocoa beans informed by even the weather. And at times you open up your cocoa beans, suddenly it's beginning to rain. Even the decision to clear, when do you expect rainfall and all that? It's all. So Yorick, I know, is playing a key role, giving alert, rainfall pattern and all that. And that, for us, I think we are playing our part as a university. Yes, because if you're able to, even Wi-Fi is one of the key problems. Entire northern people who have their bands of yams, and Wi-Fi will just go and destroy everything. And these are all issues which are, I know research in farmer helder, where these Fulani people also, they, they go and destroy people's farms. And there's also research going on. We are, playing a key role in that. At the Regional Center of Energy and Sustainable Environmental Sustainability, that's RCs, in collaboration with GIZ, Ghana's Green People's Project, established a 10-key solar-powered irrigation system. I think you heard about the solar irrigation system, because now you're aware, Galamsey and other climate, effect is influencing or affecting dams for irrigation. And so now we are talking about solar-powered irrigations, where you're able to pump water from the underground. These are all means so that we are able to ensure 24 hours. Is it 24 hours? All year round farming. All right. Instead of waiting, our farmers, they only go to dry. One is dry season, they wait. One is rain season. Instead of waiting for rainfall, now you are able to ensure. And one problem with irrigation. Look, irrigation in Ghana, irrigated crops are even expensive. Because if you want to use the traditional irrigation, they have to use the fossil fuel and fire and power engines to pump. And that adds to the cost. So, engineers, if there's a solar-powered, ensure that it means that you're going to get free, not free, but at least cheap source of water. And that will also help the price of item to come down. Because if you irrigate using a system which is expensive, you have to add that one to the cost of your produce. It made the crops what? Expensive. So the food will be there, but they cannot afford. That means food insecurity, isn't it? So therefore, it is so important that we look at that. So, in conclusion, achieving global food security remains both a critical objective and an enormous challenge, one that demands groundbreaking science, technology, and innovation, particularly from engineers. Together, we can engineer a hunger-free future where Ghana stands as a beacon of innovation and progress in food security and sustainable agriculture value chain. It is important to recognize that food security is not an optional, but a fundamental necessity for our collective survival and future. May we all rise to this challenge with courage and conviction. Long live GhIE, long live Ghana, long live UNE. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Elvis Asari Bidiako. So all too soon, we come to the end of part 1 of the program, and then we'll have our closing prayer by Engineer Professor Emmanuel Amankwa. Please, let's welcome.
Thank you very much. Let's pray. Father, in the name of Jesus, we want to thank you this morning. We thank you very much for being with us for this first part of the program. We thank you and commit the second part into your hands. May you be with us throughout the day. In Jesus' name we have prayed. Amen.
Thank you. So please, we'll have a group picture outside, and after that we have a snack break, and then we'll come back. So please, we'll move outside and then have a group pictures. Thank you. Please wait so that our VC moves first and then our guest, so that the rest of us will follow. Okay.
No fear can break me, no chain can bind.
Okay, so welcome back. And is it afternoon? Good morning once again. Good morning. We've given you snacks, so you should be able to be active and participate fully. Oh, some are complaining you couldn't get some. Okay, so next time you should register. If you register, then you'll get some. But it's still the knowledge that you acquire. That's the most important thing. So we are on the technical session, and we will have 3 presentations. So the first presentation will focus on agripreneurship, and it will focus on agripreneurship and its potential to reduce youth unemployment while strengthening agricultural productivity. And as you are all aware, agriculture remains one of the largest employment sectors in Ghana, yet youth participation remains very low. But then engineering, innovation, and technology-driven agricultural enterprises can transform the agri sector into an attractive and profitable sector for young people. So for the first presentation, which will be given by Engineer Professor Emmanuel Amankwa, he has titled it Reinforcing Agripreneurship to Minimize Youth Unemployment. Prof. Emmanuel Amankwa is an experienced engineering professional with significant contributions to the agri-engineering sector and also youth empowerment initiative. So with a round of applause, let's invite Engineer Professor Amankwa. So please note down your questions. So at first we wanted all of them to finish, but we will do the questions after each presentation. So as they present, then you note down the question. So Prof, you have 20 minutes. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning to everyone. I hope all of us are doing well. My prof is there. Well, as I said, my name is Emmanuel Amanko, and I'm here to make a presentation on reinforcing agripreneurship among the youth. Well, so this is going to be my short presentation outline. And I want to start my presentation with this quote from Samuel Johnson. He said, agriculture not only gives riches to a nation, but the only riches she can boast of or she can call her own. That alone is telling us that agriculture can make a country rich. And if that is true, then we know that the backbone of our country is agriculture. Then it means we can focus on agriculture to be able to make our people rich. Agric employs about 35 to 45 of the labor force in Ghana, and also contribute about 20 to 23% to GDP. But if you look at the statement, the down statement there, about 13.6 million hectares of land in Ghana are good for agriculture. But what do we see? Only 24% of this arable land are used for agriculture. Then what does it mean? Then it means that the statement that was made that agriculture can make our nation great and rich means that we are not prepared to make our country rich. Because if you are ready to make our country rich, then we'll make sure that we maximize the land that we have. Now, let's look at what has been happening over the years by our various governments. Since Kwame Nkrumah time, in 1962, Kwame Nkrumah came out with the establishing state farms. We all know this. That Kwame Nkrumah started with the state farms. At some point came with Operation Feed Yourself in 1970. Now, the policies continued, And just recently we had Operation what? Planting for food and jobs. Now we don't have planting for food and jobs again. What do you have? Feed Ghana program. What does it mean? Almost every government that comes into power wants to do something about agriculture. But what do you see? At the end of the day, we put a lot of money in there and no show. But I think that it's time we sit and look at the whole agriculture sector very well. I said that all the policies have not really, they've done something anyway, but they have not really transformed our agriculture. And what are the things that I realized? One, disconnect from the youth. Now, most of our farmers are old, we all know. Most of them are very, very old. And we expect that the youth will take over because unemployment has become very high. And we have agriculture that can engage more people, but yet they are not going in there. Lack of investment, low capital expenditure, and cost of farm inputs. Even apart from that, look at the road network to our various farms. Very, very poor. So if you're in a village, you produce. Even to get transportation to transport your crops from the village to town is a problem. How can this one help the farmer who is at that village? Lack of storage facilities, market for the produce, and most importantly, post-harvest losses. All this has been the problem that we have. Now, what is the way forward now for our people, our big men? What did they think? They realized that the policies are not helping us. So if the policies are not helping us, what can we do? And now, the whole approach is now about building the capacity of the youth to become entrepreneurs and agripreneurs. So almost everybody is now putting money or going for money from World Bank everywhere just to train the youth so that they can go into agriculture because we know that is the gap. But what they are doing, is it really helping the economy? Is it really helping the youth? We'll get to know very soon. So now there has been a paradigm shift, and the focus is on the youth. And now even at the university, we are training students to become entrepreneurs. We have entrepreneurial programs at the university. Now, somebody also came out with a quote that agriculture is not about growing crops. It's about growing opportunities, businesses, and livelihoods. That also goes to tell us that it's not about planting the crops, but it's about making business out of it. That is where entrepreneurship also comes in. So if you look at the whole argument and the whole discussion, entrepreneurship on the face value could be a game changer. Nobody can argue with that one. On the face value, it could be a game changer. So why or what is entrepreneurship or why entrepreneurship? Now, we all know the problem now. About 14.7% of our youth or Ghana are unemployed. How do we fix these people? The job market has undergone so many transformations. Now, to get a job, originally you can write an application and you are there, they will call you for an interview. I don't think that nowadays, if you just write an application and sit down, you think that they will call you for an interview. Things have changed. And if things have changed, it means that we need to look at how best we can rechange or rethink about entrepreneurship and move on. So now I'm going to talk about the agripreneurship. What is agripreneurship? It's the same entrepreneurship, but now you are applying those principles of entrepreneur into agriculture. That's the basic definition I want to give. And the goal is to improve food security, generate income, generate employment, and promote environmental sustainability and reduce post-harvest losses. Now, I keep saying that from production to consumption, there are a lot of jobs that could be created in between. The value chain, there are a lot of jobs that could be created. So why are we not creating those jobs? That's where all of us need to look at that. We are talking about job creation and income generation. So the question that I ask myself is that, so why are the youth not taking advantage of the vast opportunity in the agricultural sector? Well, let's look at the organization that I talked earlier. that we try to put a lot of money trying to train the youth to become entrepreneurs and agripreneurs so that they can establish their own business and create jobs for the nation. If you look at just this, even in UNE here, there was this GhIE Agritech that almost, I think every year they ask students to apply and they take them through training. They go for the competition. I think one or two occasions our students have won such a contest. So that is one. Agritech Challenge, I think they have different types, and they have the pro, they have the classic. Maybe they started from 1, 2, 3 now, because this Agritech Challenge Classic, it's a 7-month program. They are training students. They are training graduates. They are training the youth. But the question is that, of all this training, all the money that we are pumping in, is it really helping? Let's look at the next one. If you go back, just Google, internet, you see a lot of this. Youth in Agribusiness Program, apply now, call for application. Care Ghana, about Tampa, whatever program. Youth Agri Innovative, MasterCard Foundation. You see all these things. What are they doing? They are getting money, and the whole aim is to train graduates, to train students to be able to go into agriculture and build businesses on their own. Sometimes people will win, they give them packages, and that's why you see this picture there. Now, let's look at this. So my question now, what is the success rate of all these efforts that we've been doing for over the years? Well, I did a little bit research, and this is what I came out with. The whole Africa, about 54% doesn't stand. And in Ghana here, 74% of all the startups fail. So if you are pumping money, and the World Bank is pumping money, and we are training the youth, and only 26 of them can survive, then to me, there is a big question mark. What is that big question mark? We'll soon look at that. So why? I have these 3 arms of building entrepreneurs, and I didn't create them. I picked it from, is it Quran 2004. And he was talking about 3 arms. And the 3 arms, I believe they are really true. He's talking about home as a growing environment for building entrepreneurs. School as a growing environment for building entrepreneurs. Then the others. Because if you want to educate somebody, the first place you can educate anybody is the home. Then from the home, you go to school. From school, any other things can happen that will make you successful, that will make you educated. So these are the 3. But what did Soledad said? He said being an entrepreneur is a mindset. It's a mindset. If you have been trained, they give you all the skills, and your mind doesn't tell you that you can do that job, forget about it. So he's talking about being a mindset. Now, let's look at the home as an environment. In fact, I'm very particular about with the children. To be frank with you, I think over the few years, that is what I always dream about. Because I realize that we all talk about the youth. The youth of today are not the youth of yesterday. And the country where we are moving towards, I ask myself, before we talk about the youth, they were once children. So who brought them up? So if you have a child and your child is now somebody else, and you are now blaming the child for becoming somebody else, the question is that, who brought that child up? You. So I think that we as parents, we have a role to play. We have something that we need to do, and maybe we are not doing things right. And it's time that we go back to the drawing board and see how we can turn things around. Now, who are children that we are talking about? First, children are gifts. Not everybody has the right to get a child. But if you get one, how do you handle that one? Because if somebody gives you a gift, I believe that you will take very good care of that gift than what you have toiled for. Because you don't want to disappoint the one who gave you the gift. So that is one. Number 2, they have inherent gift and talent. To be frank with you, when I watch talented kids, and you see 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, the things that they do, Then you ask yourself, 4 years, look at the thing that he's doing. Can sing a whole song, can dance. I mean, you can't just imagine. Then the question is that, where are these people coming from? But they are just the children that we brought them up. Meaning that the parents recognize something in them, identified something in that child. And then when you identify that thing, you just build that thing up. Get the support, and the child will be what he or she wants to be. Then, children are unique. You probably ask for that one. Not even two twins are the same. They all have different traits altogether. But if parents, we are aware of this, they will know how we handle each child. But normally we put all of them together and treat them alike. Normally it doesn't work like that. Then children are born with no preformed thoughts and ideas. That's what we call the tabula rasa, the blank plate. The child was born, there wasn't anything in the mind. The mind was there building. It depends upon the exposure, the experiences, and the things that you do. That will build the child mind. So it's not that if you want your child to be an engineer, to me, I believe that if you already intentionally want your child to be an engineer, you can start from childhood. And truly, the child can turn out to be an engineer. Maybe the failure rate will be very low. But as long as you have determined to train the child along that line, you are likely to achieve your aim. Because there is nothing there. So all that you are building in the child mind is for the child to be an engineer. If you want the child to be a lawyer, you can start, expose the child to law firms and the videos and all the things that the child will be watching is about law, about the court, about this. What do you think will happen? The child is building the mind towards that area. That's what the child will be exposed to. So children are also natural scientists, but sometimes we kill the scientists in them as early as possible. Because the things that they do, look at this. When I was a small boy at the village, there were a lot of things that I could do. And I can manufacture so many things at the village. And this thing, every child has that capacity to do that because it's a natural instinct that every child wants to do that. And finally, it got to a point when the child is 3 years, 4 years. You look at them. They want to bath by themselves. They want to eat by themselves. They want to do everything by themselves. What does it mean? Inwardly, innately, they have that natural instinct to do those things because that's the time they have to learn. If you don't train them and they move and they get to the 7th and 8th, they will take it along. That's why it's not strange that you go and see an old person, 15, 20, 30. You go to the house, the whole house is dirty. The person is inside, doesn't even think that the place is dirty. It's as simple as that. It's because that child was not exposed to that and think that life is how it is. But there are certain things that we can train right from childhood. Now, let's look at what researchers are saying. Per the little research I did, there is a strong correlation between parents and children interest in entrepreneurship. And again, parents who own businesses will serve as positive role model that drive entrepreneurial pursuits of their children. It means that when you are an entrepreneur, definitely, unless you don't want any of your children to become an entrepreneur, definitely your child will take after you. Your child will take after you. And the third one, this estimate that 89% of business owners, 89%, what did they say? They felt deep down them that they became entrepreneurs as a result of their parental influence. That's what they are saying. So they became entrepreneurs themselves because of parental influence. And what it means that parents of entrepreneurs, whether they are natural or adoptive, can influence the type of job you have to do. And the role parents can also do to build entrepreneurs. One, parent-child interaction can influence a child's career and job preference by Anne Roy. Anne Roy said that our relationship with our children will either determine whether the child will be doing a job that is open to people or going and hide from a light job that is not exposed to people, depending upon the relationship. If you have your relationship with your child is that the child is open, can talk to you, can have a discussion with you. That anywhere the child goes, the child is free to open his mouth and talk. But when it's more or less like authoritative abuse and other things, the child is always calls in, cannot even be bold enough to go through. We have gone through those training, very difficult times. So I think it's very important that we look at that. And already we have talked about the parent become an entrepreneur. Parent can also support child's innate ability. Only that we don't take our time to study and watch our children. But if you study and watch them critically, we get to know some talents, where they are orienting towards, where they are heading towards, and we can guide them in that direction. Now let's look at the qualities of entrepreneur. We all know these qualities: attitude, resilience, determination, empathy, creativity, innovativeness. Please, the question is that, where do we get these qualities? Is it at the university? Do we build these qualities at the university? When we come to first year, then we start building this? Definitely no. If you had not built these qualities at the university, there's no way anybody can train you to build this. Even though you can build that one, but you have to be properly disciplined to be able to acquire this one. What it means is that right from childhood, parents can help you build all these qualities. Intentionally train you, guide you to build these qualities. And forget about this quality being an entrepreneur. If parents do this, don't think of your child becoming an entrepreneur. Forget about it. But as long as you have built these qualities in that child, a child grows up and opportunity comes, the child is likely to pick from there and become an entrepreneur and do whatever he or she wants to do. So building the quality is very, very important. And it's not only building the mindset. So you have to build the heart set. And the heart set means the quality of truth, honesty, and all the things that you can talk about. And build the handset, hands on something that the child, even without job, can start doing something on his or her own. So very, very important. Now we are talking about agriculture. The reason why I look at it that a lot of the things that we are doing is just the periphery. It's not helping us. It's simply this. Assuming you have a child and you expose the child to some of these agricultural things, how to plant. When I was in school, secondary school, I had a plot. I was Takwa Secondary School. Every student has a plot, especially when you are doing agric, you have a plot. So that plot, you have to make sure that you prepare that plot, you plant okra, pepper. Everybody has the seed that they will give. Then you plant. Then you harvest. Then you send everything to the kitchen. It was mandatory because you are an agric student. And assuming that you have been doing planting okra. By the time you finish already, you know how to plant okra. So if there's any land around your house, the probability of you planting okra is high because you know how to go about it. I quite remember my plot. Something happened. But that story, I don't need to tell you. All right, so I tried to check the internet to see entrepreneurs who were influenced by their parents. And truly, this is what I had. In Ghana here, Kwame said, despite Abraham, Muhammad, and all, if you read a little bit about their story, everything was as a result of their parents. And most of them were maybe parent business. So the parent had already started the business, they built the interest, they pick it up. Or encouragement from parents. Some of them too live in a village, or maybe they live in a farm environment. And they became entrepreneurship. So all these people that we are seeing them, Dr. Parker syndrome, all the big people that we talk about, well, all of them were influenced by their parents. Meaning that we parents, we have a role to play. There are a lot you can do. Even Elon Musk and Warren Buffett. I read a little bit about them. It's not everything was just from their parents. So it means that we, as parents, we have a lot of things to do. And even what about the school environment? The school environment is that agriculture shouldn't start at the university, to be frank with you. I believe that if you want to inculcate the spirit of agriculture in our children, let's start from the basic. Actually, for nothing at all, GHS. GHS, let us make agric mandatory for everybody. You go to the farm. Why is it that we say free education and government has to give the institutions money to go and buy food at the market? Why they have land? What are these people doing? Why don't you let them farm? And while they are farming, they are learning agriculture. They are also preparing food for themselves. So I think that we have to go back to the drawing board and start from there. So while they are going through that, by the time they get to the university, already their mind is prepared for entrepreneurship. Their mind is prepared to build agriculture around them. And at the end of the day, we are solving our problems. So I think that we can even take the student to district-based farmer. We can organize the students. We go to the district-based farmer. We go and look at the farm. The farmer will talk to the students. And you know students how they are. They are so happy when we expose them to some of these things. And as a result, they will build that knowledge and it's going to help all of them. We can also organize entrepreneur days. University here, they do. Those who are doing the entrepreneurship. No, not entrepreneur. These are, those who be doing food. Hospitality. Occasionally, they organize and say we are preparing food and people have to come and sell. You understand? That's a practical aspect of what they are doing. So we can also try to introduce the children to some of these things. There's an entrepreneurship day. They should bring something to come and sell. And parents will come. And you realize that they'll be so happy. And through that, they are building their mind, they are building their instinct towards entrepreneurship. So by the time they get to the university, already they are groomed, properly groomed. So just a little support will make them do very well. So in conclusion, I'm saying that entrepreneurship is known to unlock employment opportunities. There's no two ways about that. We can't doubt that. And children raised with an entrepreneurial mindset, heart set, and handset are likely to become one. Very, very important. So I believe that it's not everybody who can become an entrepreneur. But if parents can raise their children with that intentionality, with that mind that I want my child to be like this, I'm sure that at the end of the day, we are likely to get the result that we need to get. So many of the youth that we are trying to change to become entrepreneurs overnight, I think that we have missed the mark. We need to go back and restart the whole thing from afresh. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So it's question time. No, yes. So question time. If you need some clarification, you have some question, maybe contribution, yes, raise your hand. Raise your hand. Apart from you, with the students, if you don't raise your hand, I'll point you.
Hello, my name is Engineer Jugdam Tedanko. My problem is we are talking about agri business. Mostly, I think the emphasis is on agri. Then we can go to the entrepreneurship. In our setting, where you go to school when they are punishing you, they say go and weed. You understand? So it has inculcated to our mindset, the children as they grow, that agri is like punishment in the first place. So how do we change that condition? That's what I'm saying, because it's a charity begins at home. You go to school, problem is go and weed. In a house, when we were small, we used to go to farm. When you go to farm, you go and you see your friends, them they are playing football. You who will be obedient to go with them, you go and come. There's no, I don't see any, benefit of the kid in with it. So please, as you are saying, so utu momone for no so that you can know how to balance it. Other than that, we'll be going cycle. The people who are bringing those programs you are talking about, they cut it according to theirs. You go to America, the richest people are farmers. Yet here, we think it to be punishment or whatever it is. I was having some farms. I tried to do it. The people stole everything. You carry somebody there, the person will be there, the people will, I don't know what they will do, and the guy will run away and leave the place. So, and the conditions too are not favorable. Roads, everything is just like. I went built a place trying to dig wells so that we can use for everything. So I left the whole thing. I spent almost 400,000, but I left the whole because of. So.
Thank you very much. You see, the issue that he raised is something that I've identified for a very long time, that we've made agri to appear as punishment in our schools. It has been a very long time. And what have we done about it to do away with that problem? You see? And I don't know how we want to solve our problem, because in the 17th century, Great Britain realized that the agrarian economy will not help them. So they began to what? Industrialize. So even talking about agric should not be the old way of what? Doing agric. Because that idea alone will not help us. And when you try to even talk about this agripreneurship or entrepreneurship, you realize that only a few, less than half of those who try to go into entrepreneurship are able to make it. It's a systemic kind of problem. So we have to look at all these things and support those who are trying to get into these ventures to ensure that whatever that we are trying to do will work. But like you rightly said, we just touch the surfaces of our problems and think that you will get there. Every government will come with its own slogan, and we are wherever that we are. So I think wherever that we're doing, we should plan, because when we talk of entrepreneurship, in terms of agripreneurship, it's just the agric and you trying to attach planning, organizing, direction, and controlling to it. That is the managerial aspect to that. So you have to be looking at things the way you are supposed to look at them. Thank you.
Thank you. My question is, during Dr. Mary's presentation, she mentioned something that we should include ourselves in the farming, like the agri. Yes, and you also confirmed that, Prof. You also confirmed that, and that's good. So I wanted to ask, today, and she also made a statement that all of us here wanted to build. As a result, we are all using the land that we used to crop to build our various houses. And then here is the case, Galamsey and all those things that Galamsey people, they are also destroying the land. So my question is, what are we going to do? Is there any recommendations for us? And the next question has to do with, you said the parents, they should start training us from the onset. And the question is, should we also at any time listen to them? Because sometimes our parents' decisions sometimes give us problems in such a way that I completed SHS, I know my interest, I wanted to be an engineer. But my father and my parents are saying I should go to nursing training. No matter what, I have to go to nursing training. And they are the ones to cater for me. So what should I do? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I want to start from the first two questions, and almost they are the same. They are talking about agriculture. That anytime we are in school and they want to punish us, they punish us, they go and weed. And for that reason, it doesn't really help all of us to have the mind for agriculture. But look at developed countries. Even as a child, government is giving money to you as a child, a baby. And the mother too is also being paid. So if the mother is paid, the child is paid, what does it mean? They are paying you to lay a very good foundation for the child, because they've come to realize that if you have a good foundation, the rest will be okay. Now, per what you are saying, it's all about our leaders. It's everything that we are talking about is about leadership. If governments really want to build our country, our nation, then it's not about one person's manifesto. It's not about an individual party's manifesto that builds the whole nation. I keep asking myself questions. How can 2 people, 5 people sit somewhere and write a manifesto, and that manifesto covers the 30 million and over people in Ghana here? It shouldn't work like that. But I believe that truly what needs to be done is as simple as that. Government must be intentional. That we want to encourage our people to go into agriculture, then they have to start from the parents. Support the parents. It's normal. Support the parents. Let them send their kids to school. And all this support that they get from government will make them do the right thing. Your case about the parent, I keep telling, anytime I go to make presentation about children, all that I tell parents is that, please, children, as you see them, are not, in quotes, idiots. And not that they can't reason. They can reason. But parents must sit down with their children. The point that if they wanted you to go to training college, they should have even started discussing that with you when you are in class 3. It's just about discussing. Just if you want your child to be an engineer, start talking about engineering around class 3, class 2. Because that time, by the time the person gets to EHS, already all the mind is about engineering. There is not, he doesn't even know about all the other disciplines. So then when you are talking about engineering, already you have already gotten the person. But don't wait the person finish SS. Now I want to apply, and you say I have to do this, and I'm paying your school fees. And most of them, let me tell you, there's no time. But a lot of students have bought forms like 3, 4, 5 times. I have to talk to parents to leave their child and let them do what they want to do. Some of them finish mechanical engineering, 2nd year, 3rd year. Then they will stop, and the parent will call me. Then the boy will go back and buy a form and say, I now want to do computer engineering. The person has wasted 3 good years. Here, you know. Why? Because the parent wants the child to do this. I know a doctor. He wanted one of the children to be a doctor because he's a medical doctor. He has a private facility. But I think the approach was wrong. None of his children didn't want to. None of them wanted to be a doctor. So the last one, he pushed the last one to go outside the country to go and learn medicine and come back. Do you know what happened? The child was there. He paid school fees after 3, 4 years, thinking that the child has not half finished and has to come back. Only to realize that just after the first year, the child finished and born baby. At the end of the day, this man, being a doctor, got like the whole life becomes something else and has to sell the facility and move elsewhere. You see, so some of these things, sometimes it's the child who is going to study. So if your child is going to study and you don't negotiate what he's going to study, you want to push something on him, there's no motivation, there's no encouragement. At the end of the day, there's likelihood that the child will fail. So I think what you have said, parents, we are all parents. We need to try and negotiate. If my child is going to marry, the only that you can do is to get advice. Just advise your child. Give him the pro and cons about what he's going to do. If the child says, this is what I want, please leave him or her. When he goes, whatever happens, he'll come back. But if you say, no, before marriage, at the end of something go wrong, he'll come and blame you. That then you become a problem for you. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. My question is based on the presentation you did. You gave us a stat about startup failure of the youth, about 74% in Ghana. And I wanted to know what studies have been done to check what is causing that failure. Or else I think we'll just be putting out figures and they will not find solutions. Because I know a lot of youngsters who want to start their own business or they want to be entrepreneurs. And I know they have to follow due process. But sometimes you have to go and see a big man somewhere and you have to do a registration and company you have to go and see this person and then they give up. So I know there are a lot of factors that contribute to this. So I think it's high time we started doing studies around this, finding solutions. What is causing people to give up? What is causing them to not to continue? And then the failure rate is rising. When we find solutions to that, I think it will help a lot of people channel their. So that's.
Okay, thank you, Prof. I think this presentation is very, very important to the fact that, currently the industry is not growing to absorb the teeming graduates who are coming out. And I think if this entrepreneur that you just mentioned can even add it to the programs that we are doing in the tertiary level to help. Because for me, electrical, we did an entrepreneur in addition to our this. But I think that course need to be replaced by the entrepreneur. Because all of us here, we eat. We can't forgo food, but clothing, we can forgo clothing. In as much as we can't forgo food, therefore, it's very important for us to pay attention in agric. For us as a student, I will advise. But now the industry is not able to absorb us. When you come to my company like this, it's a long time we employ graduates. And if you are graduating from university with the thinking that you are coming to do national service with VRA or grade co for you to get employment, then you are deceiving yourself. Nimon just started a free super project. I was there, we commissioned their power plant. During the project, there were about 2,000 people there during the construction time. After that, they are only using 55 people for operation purpose. The rest all they've gone home. But even though to start a business in Ghana is very difficult, but I think you don't need much capital to start agric because there are a lot of lands available, even though it's very scarce. All of us, we are coming from communities. If you go to my community, like to get farmland, it's not difficult like to get heavy capital to start business. Well, now because of the dollar coming, everybody is now doing buy and sell. But I think we need to pay attention to agric, so that you mentioned that agric we can become rich, and it's true, because in Africa, if we pay attention to agric, we will be feeding the West with our fertile land. So please, my dear student, pay attention. Don't let the agric seem as a punishment. If you pay attention with your analytical background, you can get money out of it. That is my humble contribution.
Okay, so I just want to say something little add up. Please, we need to also look out when it comes to technology. Currently, everything is modernized. We are simulation, we are actually doing a whole lot of modeling concerning entrepreneurship and agribusiness. When we use the olden time entrepreneurship, a lot of businesses are going down. But when you add technology to what you are doing right now, you are improving. Let's check the social media, how people are advertising. Even they don't have shop, they don't have anything, but they are making money. So whilst we are changing our mindset concerning how to do our agri business, we need to add technology to it. We can't just use the olden days of doing agribusiness. We need to consider how we can manage our agribusiness technologically. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I want to ask this. Based on the statistics, meaning that 26 startups are able to survive, what are some of the systems that we young people we need to create in order to strive to be part of this figure? And as well, I want to know, some of us who are into the agro-processing industry, we are all startups. Some of us, we get frustrated when the government agencies like Ghana Standard Authority and FDA, because when you go to the market, our mothers in the market, they sell corn flour, they sell cassava flour, But the moment that we will add value to our own by packaging, there is issue. We need to go and see this person. We need to go and see this authority. Other than that, we can't build and we can't move forward. So we need to know what are some of the things that we as young people, we need to create in order to succeed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for all the questions are very wonderful and the contributions too. Thank you very much. But yours wasn't the question, the contribution, but let me just add up to the fact that technology is very important. And that is why some of the parents have even started introducing coding to their children. As early as 3 years, the child is being introduced into coding. What that means is technology. So they are trying to start building them from that scratch. Now, if you tell me that you want to sack me from UNE because I don't know coding and I need to learn coding before my job can be sustained, I'm very sure that definitely I have to look for a different job. Because where I am now, very difficult to learn coding when you are old. Am I right? Or when you are even at 20 and 30, very difficult. But when you are a child and you are learning something like this, it's very, very easy. You could pick it up as early as possible. By the time you are at the university, you are way, way ahead. So I think all the same, it boils down to starting from the scratch. Now, your question about the figures. Well, I didn't go to look at those that were successful and the failures, what was the reason. But my focus is that those that are even successful per whatever I presented, it means that they had already been introduced into some form of entrepreneurship. They have knowledge already, but the opportunity hasn't come. So the moment you give them that room, that opportunity, they are likely to survive and they are likely to move forward. That is my belief. Because if you already know and the opportunity hasn't come, the moment the opportunity comes, you are likely to think back into your childhood and build that capacity and move on. So that's what I'll say. For other things, I can't say anything much about it. But I believe that if you want your child to be a tech person, start from the scratch. You will get him to be that. And your question about the youth, what we can do now. Well, I'm sure that you still have that desire to be an entrepreneur. It's only that our system is so difficult to navigate. But no matter what, we are still within our system. There's nothing you can do. Still have to press on. Talk to people. Get the people who can support you. And I'm sure that with that persistence, with that push, definitely the door will be opened. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's give him another round of applause. Because of time, so sorry about that. Yes. Okay. Yes, thank you. Yes, no. Yes. Okay, thank you, Mr. Isando. Okay, so now you'll go to our second presentation, which focuses on hydropower simulation, and it's also linked to agric. So reliable and sustainable energy is essential for modern agriculture, including irrigation, food processing, and also cold storage system. So the presentation explores advanced engineering modeling techniques used to improve hydropower plant efficiency. And this improvement will contribute to stable renewable energy supply, which will support agric and also industrial growth. So it's my pleasure to introduce Engineer Dr. Martin Chere Donfe, who will be presenting on numerical simulation of free surface vortices at hydropower plant intake using open foam. So Dr. Donfe is currently the head of the Earth Observation Research and Innovation Center at Yune here, and he is a specialist in computational fluid dynamics and hydropower engineering. Look.
Good morning to us all. Don't get scared about the topic. I'll try as much as possible to be as non-technical as possible so that at the end of the day, this doesn't become a CFD class, so the civil engineers here would understand and the environmental engineers. So just as my senior colleague rightly said, we know that we want to achieve sustainable agriculture. We want to ensure food security. And the truth is that we can't do that without energy. And all of us also know that, we had one village, one dam. You remember that? Yeah. That also has to do with building dams to store water so that we can have an all year round kind of farming. And in building these dams, there's a challenge that can be posed. And that challenge is what we call free surface vortices. And so we want to see how we can make use of, I heard someone talk about technology, how we can make use of computer simulations to understand and address this particular concern, which could happen. So that is what we want to look at, and it's part of the research that was carried out in collaboration with University of Exeter in the UK and also University of Energy and Natural Resources. Under the supervision of, I think I saw my PhD supervisor here, but I think he has gotten a Professor Samuel Jemfi, and then we have Professor Gavin Tebo of Exeter, and then Dr. Mark Amobuatin, and then Engineer Professor Eriko Fuswentri. These were the team that together we worked something out. Now, this is going to be the presentation outline. Now, I think most of us are already familiar with what hydropower is all about. When we want to generate power, what we usually do for most of the dams we see around is that we create an impoundment. So we build a dam, and this dam stores water behind it. And we allow the water to pass through what we call a penstock. And as the water runs through the penstock, it turns this turbine, which is also coupled to a generator. And you've done a little bit about electricity. When there is a change in magnetic flux, what happens? Electricity, there's electrical induction. Okay, so electricity is produced. So that is basically how the whole issue about hydropower is generated. But unfortunately for us, we can have a challenge. So whether we are going to use it for dams, dams also have similar structure. They also have intakes that allow water to pass through, and then it gets distributed to the field. But we all know that we are in an era of what? Climate change. And climate change means that there is a tendency that we may get less or more runoff. Now, if we have more runoff, perhaps we can just spill and then try to avoid dam collapse or whatsoever. But when we have less amount of water in the dam, that is where the issue of free surface vortices would start to emerge. Now, we also understand from those of us who have done IWRM that there is increasing competition for the limited water resources we have. So as this goes on and on, we realize that there's a tendency for us to have less water in the dam because the water is being used for other activities. Now, the issue of free surface vortices happens when the water level goes down. So at a particular level, which we call the critical submergence, we have the formation of what we call a dimple. The ladies, you know what a dimple is? Some people even go for artificial dimples, I lie. So we have this kind of dimple that is formed. And it's not just a dimple, but it is water that is rotating in a circular motion. And as it does this, it draws in air. In fact, it could also even draw in debris. And unfortunately for us, you can see that we have the turbines located at the path of travel of the water towards the energy generation. So now once these vortices are created, there's a tendency for it to cause a lot of havoc to these turbines. And that is a serious phenomenon. And this has so many consequences, which we would soon see. So, apart from that also, we may have the issues of an unfavorable approach flow. So, if we don't design our dam very well, we could also induce free surface vortices. Now, what are some of the impacts of these vortices? First of all, it can lead to reduced flow discharge because these vortices come with formation of bubbles. And of course, once they are formed, it means that the capacity of the pen store to carry the volume of water is going to be reduced. We also have issues of vibration. There can be issue of cavitation. And you know what? The mechanical engineers better understand what cavitation is. When these bubbles are formed and at low pressure, they can collapse. And when they collapse, they actually exert so much energy that it can even cause wear and tear inside the turbines. We also have the issue of surging and structural damage to turbines and even pumps in the case of irrigation. So, we therefore have to find ways of addressing this phenomenon. And one of the means that we try to use is to use what you call anti-vortex devices. And there are several types of these anti-vortex devices. And what they do is that they try to suppress the formation of these vortices so that we don't have so much of these things happening, which of course could harm our turbines or our pumps in the case of irrigation. So, what did we seek to do in our work? Now, one good thing about, I know most of us would either do fluid mechanics, and if you are in civil engineering student here or environmental engineering student, you climb higher, and you are going to do computational fluid dynamics. Now, in the olden era, when we are trying to solve, let's look at it, we want to design a Kosombo Dam. What we will do is that we'll try to build a model of the Kosombo Dam in a laboratory. Look at this Akosombo Dam. Look at how huge it is. And you need to scale it down and model it, build it in the laboratory, simulate the flows through it. If there's a problem, you need to work on it. In fact, it could even take years for us to be able to come out with the final design of the dam before we go out to implement. You have no idea the amount of money that was used to build Akosombo. So if you don't do the proper work in the lab, you'll be too scared. And that is what used to be done. Or even in the olden days, you want to build an aircraft. We design a number of these models, then we run them through a wind tunnel. The same applies to a car. We design we build several prototypes. We all want to reduce drag, you know. But in this era of computational fluid dynamics, we don't do that. We just need to build maybe just one. And then we simulate it on the computer and we validate it. Once we have validated it, case closed. We just go to AutoCAD or whatever CAD, whether you use SolidWorks, to just tweak any design that we want to do. And then we run the simulation again to see how it's going to behave. So now the work becomes very, very easy. Something quite similar to what we call the machine learning and things like that. Because once we have validated the model, we just need to go to the design and make some modification. And that's why instead of building thousands of the prototypes, just to come up with the optimal design. So in our research work, we said that, well, then let's try to simulate this and see how best a certain free, let me say, open source tool, which is used for CFD analysis, and it is called OpenFOAM. How best can this software also help us to simulate this phenomenon so that we wouldn't have to build so many of these prototypes to be able to see whether vortices will happen or vortices will not happen? Should we include anti-vortex device or not? So that was basically what we were trying to do. And so I wouldn't want to bother you so much about this, but in a nutshell, if you want to do any CFD studies, we try to create the domain or the geometry of it. And then that will mean that after creating the geometry, we have to do what we call meshing. We try to break the geometry into tiny, tiny, tiny grades. And then we decide to now apply the equation that we want to apply, then ask the computer to simulate. Then after simulation, we try to do some processing. And in the process, you also have to do some form of validation because, of course, garbage in, garbage out. So the fact that you are seeing beautiful colors doesn't necessarily mean that you are right. You may need to use an experimental data or perhaps some data from an analytical model to validate it before you can say that, oh, with confidence that my model is working. So this is exactly what we did. And we wanted to work on the Akosombo case. But after chasing data for years, I never got it. And I got to UK and I still didn't get it. So I also had just 1 year, so I had to find a way. Thankfully, I came across someone who had carried out an experiment in the lab. And so I decided to now borrow the experiment that he has done in the lab and now model it to see whether it is going to work. So this was the experiment that a man by name Sakade and others tried to do, and I decided to borrow it. And I told you that I was also interested in learning about how to simulate the flow when you have anti-vortex devices. So another experiment by Amri et al. Also put in place an anti-vortex device. Unfortunately, I'm not getting my pointer, but you can see the anti-vortex device here. So I wanted to see how the anti-vortex device too also behave, how the flow behave when we have an anti-vortex device in place. And I was also interested in, so I told you about the fact that when you're doing any computational model, you would need to build a geometry. So I had to build a geometry of this and then run it through the necessary simulation. I talked about the fact that we need to do meshing. And so we need to mesh the whole geometry before we can do any simulation. And interestingly, now, after running through the various models and styles, we'll be able to really predict. So you can see from here, you can see that we have been able to create the dimple that is formed whenever the water level gets to the critical submergence. And then you can see those, if you have some understanding about fluid mechanics, you understand what we mean by velocity vectors. So you can see how the water is moving and is trying to enter through the intake. So once we have been able to really confidently be able to prove that our model can really simulate what we are looking for, then I told you about something, that the fact that your model is giving you beautiful pictures does not necessarily mean that it is right. So you need to compare what your model is giving you with other established experimental or analytical models. So if you do the comparison, so you can see we are comparing our tangential velocities with other predictions from other studies. And then we also try to compare our water surface profile with other studies. And you can see that, in fact, our model is a black trend. And you can see that our model was actually doing very well in terms of its prediction. Now, we decided to look at how well or how good our model was working. So we decided to find what we call the mean deviation. And looking at the values there, you can see that the model was not doing bad at all. So it's only at this stage that you can see that your model is really performing. Now, it was also good for us to now look at the various, try to see, there are so many ways of trying to identify vortices. And you can use streamlines. And from fluid mechanics, you know that streamlines represent the power that are traced by what? Fluid particles. So you can see the streamlines are on your right and on your left. You can see that when vortices are formed, it causes low pressure at the region of its formation. So you can see that where the dimple has been formed, you can see that the pressure is low. So all these things are trying to tell us that our model is really working. And in the experimental data too, we had some form of contour plots of velocity. So we decided to also take some contour plot of our work and try to see how well it is trying. It's been, when they did the experiment, they used what you call ADV, acoustic Doppler velocimeter, to measure the velocities. And from that, they were able to plot this. So then we can also use our CFD tool to also cut a slice through it and now compare our results with yes. And then our model was actually doing very well. Now, what made it very interesting is that if you have done fluid mechanics, you can see that basically flows are usually categorized into three. We have turbulence, laminar, and hot transition, right? Yeah, so this is a typical case of a turbulence kind of flow. So we have several models that we can use to model it. So we try to see which of them is able to give us a proper prediction of the vortex or the dimple, as we have been referring it to. So we compared it with the GhIE model, the K omega model, and the SST K omega model. So these were the ones that we selected. So we performed our analysis, then we tried to now, as usual, compare it with other experimental and analytical models to find which of the turbulence model was performing. And then as I told you, we now try to see what if we have an anti-vortex device there. And you see that once we have an anti-vortex device, it suppresses the formation of the vortex. So you can see that in this case, we don't get a dimple being formed because the anti-vortex device has been able to suppress its formation. So that was also an interesting part of the work. And we decided to now, let's take it to a different level. You know, in Akosombo, we have several intakes, okay? So what if we have multiple intakes? How is it going to behave? So we decided to put in place 3 intakes and now see, will our models still be able to predict the formation of these models, of these vortices? And thankfully, the model was also doing very well. And then we tried to look at how the velocity vectors are going to behave and how the streamlines are also going to behave. And ideally, it was also giving us very good prediction. And beyond this, we tried to also look at some other scenarios. You know, sometimes when they want to do some maintenance, or sometimes when the water level is low, they shut down some of the turbines. So once they do that, it means that some of the intakes are not going to be used. So we decided to now look at scenarios. What if the middle intake is not in operation? How would the vortex formation hot behave? So in this scenario A, we're looking at when the middle part is not operational, assuming that maybe the middle turbine is faulty and they're trying to work on it. How would the formation of the turbine behave? And then we also looked at another scenario when one of the outer intakes is also not working. So we realize that when this happens, it causes a more pronounced form of, or a more intensive vortices being formed, especially when we have the intakes being closer to each other. And these were very, very good observations. And so one of the things we inferred from our work is that the issue of spacing of intakes should be giving critical attention when we are doing designs, because we realize that when we operate the multiple intakes such that they are very close to each other, we realize that the formation of the vortex becomes more severe. So that was one of our take-homes when we looked at that. Of course, for every simulation, we need to assess our convergence to see whether our work is actually converging. Now, these were some of the conclusions that we got at the end of the study. As I indicated, we used the open foam tool, and then inside the open foam tool, we had another steady state kind of model called the LTS interfoam. And that is what we used. And we saw that it was able to really predict the formation of this vortex. But the only problem is that the LTS interfoam solver is a steady state solver. And those who are doing fluid mechanics, you know what we say when something is steady. So it tells us that it cannot predict the time evolution of the process. So that was the limitation with the LTS interfoam solver. And I think another thing we realized that using the spiral streamlines, the pressure minima criteria, and other things, we were able to really predict the formation of the vortex. And then I told you about the fact that we tried to look at different models and how they perform in the prediction of the vortex. The SST K omega came out as the best predictor in terms of the choice of the model. And then we realized that when you have multiple intakes, you require larger critical submergence as compared to single intakes. And then, as I've already indicated, you have to be very careful in terms of the spacing, because the closer the intakes are, the more pronounced or the more intense the vortex begin to behave. And then another thing is the fact that we realize that we can use the volume of fluid method to really do the vortex prediction. We also provided some interesting recommendations. As I've already indicated, the LTS interform solver was used, and then we realized that we couldn't do much more with multi-level intake. When we talk about multi-level intake, it's when they have multiple intakes, but they are at different elevations. We didn't look at that. We looked at when all the intakes are at a common level, the same level. So maybe, who knows, one of you can come and carry it out from here and then look at that. And then we also looked at the fact that you saw, as I indicated, we were chasing data from Akosombo. It didn't work out. Maybe. And at your tenure, when you also want to do your PhD, maybe you'll get the data. The reason was that they said the data was confidential, so many things, patency, whatever, so many big English. Maybe. During our time, maybe they may, so that it become interesting, because then you are going to simulate something that is real and is actually in existence. And then, as I indicated, there was a problem with there was a limitation with the LTS interform. It is a steady state solver. So we couldn't really look at how the vortex is going to evolve with time. So we're looking at, in the future, someone should try to see if using a transient solver, we can be able to predict the formation of the vortices. We have had a number of publications. I left one out, about 3 or so publications, and then other conference presentations that have also come from the work. And we have some references also. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Engineer Dr. Martin Chiredonfe. Okay, so questions, clarification, contributions, suggestions. Okay, so Prof. 2, Delidi 3 for the first round, then 1, 2, 3. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much for your presentation. My question is, you said that you couldn't get the data to do your work, and you saw somebody's work to use it to model. Did that change your objective? So you let us know. And the second one is that the anti-vortex device, how does it work in a real life situation? I think what you did was just simulation, but in real life situation, how does that work? Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. Please, I want to ask, I've been noticing that whenever they have dam spillages, they don't store the water, they just like allow it to destroy people's homes. Please, why don't they use it for agriculture? Or why don't they store it to like reuse to produce more electricity? Thank you very much.
And please, I want to ask, how can the hydropower plants support irrigation system to boost crop yields and improve food security in the agriculture sector?
So from Prof's question, he asked why the data was not given, and whether it influenced the first of all, why I didn't access the data, right? Okay. So, and that is one of the advice I would want to give to those who are, especially those who are doing their postgraduate studies. Always have a plan B. I don't know if you get the whole thing. Always have a plan B. So, whilst I was in the country and I was trying to access the data, in fact, I traveled all the way to Akuse to have a meeting with their engineer. You know, their engineering actually division is actually at Akuse. So I had a meeting with them. I'm talking about with their top guys. And they made it clear that they can't release the data. But as I was doing my literature review, I had a plan B. And the plan B was this approach. That just in case it doesn't work, then I'll look for someone who has built an experimental model and model that around it. So I would say that it changed, my objective changed slightly a bit, in a sense that I could not simulate the exact happenings at Akosombo, because I wanted to see what happens when the water level goes down and how it impacts energy generation, just because I'm a Ghanaian. Okay. So now, because I couldn't get it, then I needed to do what somebody has built in the lab. So it affected the objectives. But at the end of the day, it was still tailored around the same thing that I wanted to do. So that is what happened. And I think someone asked about, I think I finished with you, Prof. Am I done with you? Okay, yeah, the anti-voltage device. Okay. So what the anti-voltage device does is that it suppresses the formation. So because if there's no anti-voltage device, there's no hindrance. So it just forms. But when there's an anti-voltage device, it minimizes the strength and also suppresses the formation of it, because it provides some form of like a sieve. And so so some obstruction. So the voltage doesn't have that freedom to actually form. So that is how it works. Exactly. So even sometimes it forms, but with minimal impact. I hope you are okay with that. Yeah. So, and then someone is talking about why don't we use the dam? Yeah. So you need to understand that when we design a dam is always designed to store some maximum amount of water. Now, when the VRA people spilled the Akosombo, there were so many public outcries. We are not getting water, and you are saying we don't have energy, and you are spilling. Let me tell you, if they didn't spill, it would have washed the dam away, washed human beings, thousands of human beings, all the communities down there, to wash them down into the sea. That's what happens when a dam collapses. So when the water is allowed to go beyond the maximum level, if you still entertain the water there, the pressure is going to cause the dam to what you call total failure. And that will mean that the engineers that are working, the Akosombo town, all the communities downstream will be washed away. So now we have to do what we call control spillage. Of course, when we do spillage too, it also comes with its consequences. But in this case, it is better, because then we can inform the people, maybe move away. Okay, so that, of course, there will be some property distractions and things like that, but in that way it is controlled. Rather than it washing human beings and having several RIPs, okay? So please, just bear with us. And another way to address it is that sometimes they design the dams to have what we call pump storage. But as it stands now, the nature of our market, our energy market, doesn't really favor pump storage, whereby you generate more and then you pump back. But currently, the tariff is virtually constant, so there is no motivation. Okay, but the truth is that if you don't spill and you entertain it, you are going to die. And then I think there was a question about how can hydropower, just as we are talking about the fact that hydropower stores water. And you know irrigation, so we have what you call multi-purpose dams. Some dams are designed to provide, sometimes they are used for irrigation, they are used for water supply, and they are used for energy. So they're able to operationalize the whole thing such that they use part of the water for energy generation. And of course, when you have a big farm, I'm not talking about the small farms, commercial farms, you need energy for some of the processes. And you also need water to also water the plants. So the dam provides that water. And so there's, for instance, in my master's research, I realized that even the Barakese Dam was designed to provide both water supply and then hydropower. But the hydropower phase was not implemented. So that is how hydropower is able to help in irrigation or agricultural purposes.
Akuse was designed for both hydro and then irrigation. So we used to have Akuse farms and all those things in those days. So that is how. So even Akuse Dam, you know, from Akosombo, the water flows down, comes down, then Akuse too catches that what the same water that is flowing from Akosomo, it catches it, dam it, and then use it for generation. Then especially we use it again. So you see the water comes from Akosomo comes to. Yeah, we call pond. No, but you see the problem is the dam is at Akuse. And the pond is GSC. That's GSC, but I'm talking about the dam. It's in Akuse. So that's what we call it. That's our. Yeah, my own was in terms of the vortex. You know, as we are saying, the intakes are, when they are close, they will behave as a unit because they are close. So they behave as a unit. That's why I was glad that you say we are finding to separate them a bit. So when you separate them, then it will come, it will split. So because of that, the distance between them will not allow it to become a unit. Because when they are close, the vortex will be increasing, and they effect to accumulation because there are plenty of them coming together. It will become bigger as compared with when you separate them and the distance between them. That's what I wanted. Just thank you.
Yeah, we know that the generation of vortices comes with what? Heat generation. Why didn't you consider that in your work?
Yeah. So, because he's also me, I should have added as a limitation. So, I think once you start going to heat, then you're looking at the thermodynamic aspect of it. And in fact, one aspect is that, the solver also has its limitation. It doesn't look at the thermodynamic aspect. So it's also very interesting. Maybe someone can also look at that and find a solver that looks at the thermodynamic aspect of it. But this solver will never give you anything in relation to heat or temperature. There's no parameter in that solver that addresses that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, so now we have our last presentation, which will focus on post-harvest cooling system, and it will be delivered by Engineer Professor Thomas Atadakwa, and the topic of his presentation is evaporative cooling as a farm gate intervention for fruit and vegetable preservation and food security in Ghana. Professor Atadakwa is currently the head of Department for Agriculture and Bioresource Engineering. Prof, you are welcome.
Thank you, Chairman, Branch Chair, and MC. So I'm presenting on evaporative cooling as a farm gate intervention for fruit and vegetable preservation and food security in Ghana. So you all know post-harvest losses, and it's a big issue here in the country. And these losses occur due to lack of affordable cooling and storage options. So at the farm gate, we don't have enough operative cooling or cooling systems. Let's say storage structures that will preserve the shelf life of the fruit and vegetables. So with my presentation, I'm narrowing it to fruit and vegetables, not cereals and the rest. So when these losses occur, it reduces farmers' income, and that also threatens food security. Evaporative cooling system offers a low-cost, energy-efficient solution, especially suitable for hot and dry climates. Okay, so we talking about post-harvest losses. There are losses from the production to the consumption of agricultural products. So after harvest, the produce, they are supposed to be transported from the farm to the marketing centers or to the consumers. But you know that at the remote areas, we have difficulty. Farmers don't get access to vehicles to transport their produce to the marketing centers early. At times, maybe it takes some days before they are transported. So between that period, these produce, that is the fruits and vegetables, may deteriorate, and that will reduce the quantity of the food and also its quality. Food that is harvested for consumption is lost along the agricultural value chain before it gets to the marketing centers or reaches the hands of consumers. You know that elsewhere, it is at the table or where the fork is being used. That's where a lot of food losses occur. Do you agree with me? Elsewhere, in the Western world, it is at the table. They cook and then produce a lot. That is at the table and not getting people to consume. But where we find ourselves, the losses at the table is small as compared to at the farm gate. So for sub-Saharan African countries, post-harvest losses are high for fruit and vegetables, because that's the one I'm talking about, with estimates ranging from 30% to 50%. So at the farm gate, before they are transported to the marketing centers, up to 30 to 50% are lost. The rest are transported or get to the marketing centers. So this is a very big issue. Why would a farmer go through all the troubles and then harvest the produce, and at the end of the day, look at the percentage that deteriorates? So there is the need for the farmers to get these storage structures to preserve the produce before they are transported to the marketing centers or to the consumers. And such storage systems, you need an environment which is cooled and also humid so that it can preserve the produce.
So lower temperatures help to slow down the rate of spoilage and ripening processes. That is, high relative humidity prevents moisture loss. So we want to talk about the evaporative cooling systems. So that's what is going to, let's say, preserve the produce for some time before you bring your car be fired at the co. And you know that if the produce deteriorates, it affects even the pricing of the produce. So if we have these systems in place, the quality of the food or the product will be high, and farmers can sell their produce at good price, right? Okay. So this evaporative cooling system is a natural process where heat is absorbed from the environment as water evaporates, lowering air temperature and increasing humidity. So it requires only water and airflow, and either no or minimal electricity. So as I said earlier, it increases relative humidity and reduces temperature, slowing down respiration and spoilage of produce. So after harvest, the plant or the fruit of vegetable still respires. Respiration continues to take place, and that leads to ripening and subsequent spoilage if it is not preserved before they are transported to the marketing centers. So the basic principle for the evaporative cooling system: water is introduced onto a surface or porous material, then heat from the surrounding air causes water to evaporate, and as the water evaporates, it absorbs heat and cools the air that has been drawn in. Systems vary from simple clay pot designs to large formed air chambers. So you can use locally available materials, clay, bricks, and the rest to design your evaporative cooling system. So the different types, we have the pot-in pot coolers. Pot-in pot coolers. So here you have two clay pots with sand in between, and then you wet the sand which is in between the two pots, and thereby cooling the inner pot. And then we have the clay or brick zero energy cooling chambers. So the same principle, you have structures using wet sand between walls to cool the storage rooms. And then the last aspect, that is forced air evaporative cooling chambers. And with this, we utilize airflow and wet parts to cool larger quantities of agricultural produce. So so on my left, the top left, that's the brick, right? Brick with sand in between. So that is a project work for agricultural a PhD agricultural engineering student at UCC. Okay, so the bricks over there, you have the inner one and the outer, and there is sand in between. So the gallon, the yellow gallon that you see, filled with water, and then you have a tube or a pipe connected to it, and that will wet the sand, which is in between the bricks. Okay, so the water in between the bricks, what happens is, because the system is porous, yeah, it passes through it bit by bit, and then, you know, the brick contains some amount of heat because the temperature of the bricks, and then the inner chamber where you have the black cover, it is a blanket or a fabric. So it is the inside. That is why you have the black blanket. That's where you put the produce. And as the water seeps or passes through the bricks, then it evaporates, and then the inner chamber, its temperature reduces and also increases the humidity. So the black blanket or the fabric is wetted. You have to wet it. And it uses the same principle for where you have the clay. You have the inner pot. So the inner pot with fruits or vegetables, as you can see, and then the outer pot. And you fill the annulus with sand. And the same principle, you wet it. You get a damp cloth. Then you cover it. And because it's made of clay, it is porous. So the water within the soil also passes through the pot. And then at the surface of the pot, it's able to cool the inside chamber, because the temperature of the pot and then the temperature within the inner chamber, the water that is seeping through the two layers evaporates and then cools the produce that is in it. And that is the first, the one below, that is the left down, where you have the schematic diagram. That is the first evaporative cooling system. So air is drawn from outside, that is hot, dry air, drawn from outside, which passes through wet parts. So there are parts, either a straw, coconut husks made of that, or other parts, and then water below, water is pumped into the part to wet it continuously. So hot, dry air, which is drawn from outside, passes through the parts, and then the water in there evaporates, and which cools the inner chamber. So the fan in there draws it from the outside, which passes through the parts, and the water evaporates and then reduces the temperature, cools the inner chamber. So that is how it works. So with the ones at the top, it doesn't require any energy, electricity. But the one below, that's a forced evaporative cooling system. So places, that is at the farm gate where there are no electricity, you can get power from what? The solar system. You can generate power from there. So that can help in that form. So you can get power from there. But with the two at the top, requires no energy or electricity. So that's how the evaporative cooling system works. So it lowers the temperature and also increases the humidity, and that slows moisture loss and respiration. And it's reported that 2 to 4 times it improves its shelf life. That is for fruit and vegetables. There's improvement in the shelf life of this product, about 2 to 4 times as compared to ambient air. So the benefit for smallholder farmers: reduces post-harvest losses and higher market yield, more reliable food supply near harvesting site. So at the harvesting site, because there are structures there to preserve the produce, all the time there is a supply. And because we said it is locally available material and minimal energy, it is also affordable. Limitations and considerations. It is climate dependent, so it is best in hot and dry regions, less effective in high humidity. It also needs regular water supply for evaporation. You have to supply water constantly for the cooling process. Then small units are best for farm gates, but may not replace large commercial cold rooms. For larger farms, for commercial farms, so they can get structures, bigger structures that will store such produce before they are moved to the marketing centers. So this is viable, low-cost, energy-efficient farm gate technology. And with this in place, it will help reduce post-harvest losses and enhance food security, and also improve farmers' livelihoods. So an adoption of this technology requires integration with local practices, training, and supportive policies. So recommendations, training and extension, educate farmers and technicians on the design and how to maintain the system. Subsidies or grants for constructing evaporative cooling system for smallholder farmers. And how to adapt designs suited to Ghana's diverse climatic zones. Also connect cooler services with aggregation and transport logistics to reduce spoilage before market. So with the research and innovation, I was discussing with our chairman that student chapter, you will take it, the leaders, take note, take it upon yourself. Let's see how, with the supervision of your lecturers, how we can design and construct such evaporative cooling system to support our farmers, so that at the end of the day, they don't go at a loss, going through all the hell, and then harvesting, and at the end of the day, about 30 to 50% go waste. So this is the challenge. Your supervisors, the lecturers are there to help you, and maybe funds will also be available for you to embark on this venture. So that is what I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Professor Thomas Atadakwa. Okay, any questions, suggestions, clarifications? Okay, one. Any other?
Thank you very much, Prof. And please, I would like to know the capacity of your system, because you mentioned that for large scale farming, it's a limitation. So if we have an idea the capacity of your system, then as a limitation, if anyone wants to improve on what you have done, it would be of good information. Thank you.
So, Prof, wanted to know whether we looked at the issue of acceptability on the part of the farmers, because many a times we come up with innovations and sometimes they seem not to meet what they are really looking for. And also whether there were did you make maybe some cost considerations? Are there affordability? I'm looking at the issue of affordability. Is this something that actually would fit their minimal returns that they get from their farm?
I want to ask about how will the farmers maintain each unit so that it's work effectively.
Thank you very much. I would like to ask, how can we compare this to cold room system?
Okay, so with the capacity, it depends. I might not be able to give the exact quantity that may be stored within the system, depending on the size. Will let you know, or the farmers know the amount that can be put in the unit. So my research didn't get to that extent of getting the right quantity for different units. Yes, yeah, I understand. Yeah. And that's how it's supposed to be. Okay, so that's what do you call it? Mechanical adiabatic process. So, and that is technical, if I should say. So, going forward, those things will be addressed. Thank you. Okay, so for the cold rooms, like refrigeration, there are certain temperatures. You get it. So for the refrigeration, go as low as even 0. But with this system, that is 10 to 15, the temperature range, that is 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. So it is able to achieve that cooling capacity, but not as compared to the cold rooms by the refrigeration system, but it's able to do the work. So with the cost aspect, we are getting materials from this is locally available materials. So if there are areas where you can get these bricks or the clay, don't think that might be sold at a higher price. So the average farmer can get these materials, and then with the help extension officers, such unit can be built. The perception, yeah, that any technology that is introduced to farmers at times becomes difficult for them to accept. But if, let's say, you've harvested your produce and they are deteriorating, right? And then this technology is being introduced to you, and it's going to help at least preserve it for some time before they are transported. It is a good news. So the farmers should be able to accept it. But some of this is socio-cultural practice and the rest. But it demands going to the field and then administering questionnaires, getting results out of it. So these things calls for other research that we have to conduct. Thank you. Okay, so looking at the materials that are being used, if the farmers are coached, right, how it is made, and then with the maintenance, you have to get the sun wet at all times. So it is not something that is difficult if the extension officers are around to guide them, then these structures can be properly maintained. Thank you.
Thank you very much. One question?
Okay. Yes. If you go to the north, Boko West, and then I know like large commercial farms, they also employ this system. But it is not much in the country, and that's why we are proposing that if such systems can be built, that will reduce post-harvest losses.
Okay, thank you. Any other? Okay, so let's give a round of applause to all the three presenters. All the three presenters. And also clap for yourself for participating actively. I'm sure we've all learned something. Enhancing energy efficiency, sustainability, reducing youth unemployment, and also reducing post-harvest losses, all through engineering-related activities. So thank you for your participation. We will have a next session after lunch. That one will be the AGM, where we will discuss innovative activities to promote the engineering profession and also student activities. So for now, we will break. It's 1:10. I'm not sure whether the lunch is ready. But we will break for lunch for 1 hour. So we'll return around 2:10 for the AGM. Thank you. a branch of the Ghana Institution of Engineering, and as the chairman indicated, it covers 3 regions. So Bono East and Ahafo. So originally Brong Ahafo. So annually we have our general meeting and we combine it with the conference. So we finish with the conference part. And now is the AGM, where we will discuss for the past 1 year what we've been able to achieve, our finances for this year, proposed activities also for this year, and also contributions from members, so professional engineers and also our student would-be engineers. So per the agenda for the AGM, we will start with the finances of the branch, program of activities for the year, updates of membership records, payment of subscription, attendance to meetings, plan for our end of year get together, then payment of monthly dues, then AOB. So we will start with the first item. That's the finances of our branch. So, Chair.
Thank you very much, Secretary. And then welcome you to the AGM. This is where we take major decisions. And whatever decisions we arrive at, it will bind everybody. As we all know, as a branch, we rely solely on the Secretariat. And as you are aware, this AGM was fully funded by the Secretariat. And it hurts that professional engineers, even those who registered that they will come, nobody forced them. They are not here. And it saddens my heart. If you know you not come, why even did you even register? Because we use all this for planning purposes, and now they didn't come. And they're the same people, are not doing this, you do this, they don't come, and I don't know. So as a branch, as I said, we rely solely on and the branch is also made up of the chapters. That's why we have our student chapters here. The STU student chapter, then the one there, we have the UNES student chapter, the one here, sorry. So whatever we do as a branch, we don't take money. It is just 10% of the subscription that they pay nationally is supposed to be given to the branches. And if you don't pay your subscription, I'll come there when it means that I will not even get money to run the institution in the branch. As part of our budget, last 2 weeks, I had more like a conversation on Zoom with the director of membership services. We spoke a lot on how to even fund. And it came out that as branches, we are not supposed to rely on the Secretariat. So we should identify companies or institutions within our jurisdiction. And I told them, Newmont is here. When you write to Newmont, it has to go to Accra. Once it goes to Accra, the Secretariat also will also go there. And that's the challenge. So please, if you are here and your company can support, because for them, and I think the idea they are bringing is good. If Newmont or those companies here in the 3 regions can support us, we go there, look for money, then we can run our own activities. Otherwise, then we have to rely on the Secretariat. And you could all attest to that. For last year, we wanted to do our end of year. Normally, they organize for us. They asked us to present a budget, which we did. And the whole branches, not that they had money that they didn't give us. There was no money. And the money they get is from what? Subscriptions. So we need to find means of, we've agreed that every month they were supposed to give us what you call administrative expenses, which should be 1,500. So that in case we have a meeting, then we can have refreshment. So that's what we've agreed on. So that I was even telling 1,500 is too small. So if they could increase it, so we are only expecting that maybe after this, next week we have council meeting. Then when I go, I'll re-echo that to them. So once you have a meeting, please, the monthly meeting is not for professional engineers. Student chapters, you are part of that. If it's Zoom, you have to join. If it's face-to-face, then when we meet like this, we have to have refreshment, which we have to do. So and we'll come to all those things. So please, colleagues here, if you have companies that can support the branch, I don't rely on the secretariat. That would be very good. My friend Newmont, if you could, find a way and let's see our best. So please, then the student chapters, per the budget that I sent to the secretariat, which I know, per the discussion we had, they cannot. I was able to do some few things and make, I think it's about 325,000, 3.2 billion. And they're asking me, Prof, where are you going to get the money? This is the budget. So it's up to you to tell us whether you can fund some of the activities. And I'll link that with your permission. Then number 2, program activities. For this month, we have our AGM, which they have funded because it is a constitutional requirement. We should have branch annual general meeting and conference. So in that case, they will do that. In February, we are trying to have industrial visits. And we are supposed to visit at least 5 companies in the Bono East and Afo, or institutions. And I put some value there, 15,000, because of fuel and then feeding and all those things. We need to do that for the 3 regions. Then there should be also